Hello, I'm Ray Sheen. If you're planning on taking the Black Belt exam, you'll need to be familiar with all of the topics that are in the Black Belt body of knowledge. So let's take a look at what that entails.
Let's start with what we mean by a body of knowledge. The IASSC Black Belt body of knowledge is a list of topics and subject matter that a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt practitioner should know. In the case of the IASSC body of knowledge, it is a list of topics, but not all of the details about those topics. To understand the details, you need a course like this one, or you need to study the books and writings that explain each of the topics. Also, let me clarify for you that are not familiar with the Lean Six Sigma belts. The Black Belt role is for that of a Lean Six Sigma project team leader and those who are overseeing the Lean Six Sigma project leaders and teams. You are the subject matter expert of all Lean Six Sigma, so you need to understand all the phases and the tools of Lean Six Sigma. Therefore, the IASSC Black Belt exam tests all 5 phases of a Lean Six Sigma project: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, and all of the tools and techniques that are applicable to each phase. As I mentioned in an earlier session, the IASSC Black Belt exam is 150 multiple choice and true-false questions that address the Black Belt body of knowledge. So let's look at each of these Lean Six Sigma project phases. First is the define phase. The body of knowledge in this phase is both a broad knowledge of Lean Six Sigma and specifics on the define phase. So one aspect is the basics of Six Sigma, the history and the project management approach, like roles, phases, and deliverables, and a fundamental aspect of problem solving, the Y=Fx formula. There are also a number of fundamental terms and concepts in Six Sigma that are used over and over again. Acronyms like CTQ, DPMO, cost of quality, and Pareto principle. Specifically focusing on the define phase, they're the topics concerning building a business case, creating a charter, and setting the project metrics. The last topic area in this phase is the Lean enterprise. For many in the Six Sigma community, Lean is an afterthought or a poor stepchild to the Six Sigma statistics. IASSC has made a conscious effort to bring Lean principles into its body of knowledge, and many test questions will be related to Lean, in particular the 7 elements of waste and the 5 S disciplines. On to the measure phase. In the measure phase, we get down to the real problem, and to do that, the body of knowledge includes a number of tools and techniques for process and problem definition. Things like cause and effect diagram or fishbone diagram, process mapping, and related topics like SIPOC and value stream mapping. One very powerful and helpful technique for knowing where to find the problem is the failure modes effects analysis. We have an entire course devoted to this topic and how to use it. This is also where IASSC introduces some basic statistical principles that everyone doing process improvement work should know. Things like normal distribution, the items of descriptive statistic analysis, and graphical analysis. Another very important area is the measurement systems analysis. These are the tools to make sure that your measurement system can be trusted. We have an entire course on this topic, and if it is brand new to you, I would recommend that you take it. However, in this program, we will introduce the topic and the key principles. The final topic in this phase is process capability. It is a statistical idea that is crucial for understanding your real problem. It deals with the process stability and the customer requirements. We address how this is determined both for variable and discrete data. Now, on to the analyze phase. In the analyze phase, the team will analyze the data gathered in the measure phase to determine the root cause or causes. One way to do this is to determine the distribution of the data, which means the patterns of variation. Inferential statistics are another topic. This means the statistical analysis of a sample of data that is used to infer the characteristics of all the data. Needless to say, how the sample data is selected and analyzed is a big part of this analysis. Hypothesis testing is the approach used to statistically determine the root causes. There are many factors that influence the structure and analysis of a hypothesis test. We have an entire separate course on this subject because it is the heart of much of the statistical analysis in Lean Six Sigma. The Black Belt body of knowledge focuses a segment of hypothesis testing with normal data and another segment on non-normal data. If you already know statistical analysis, you'll be familiar with all of these. If not, you should take the hypothesis testing course in order to become familiar with all of the tools and tests and when to use them. On to the improve phase. For many quality problems and with the Lean analysis, the improve phase is very straightforward. Eliminate the problem or change the process to get the performance you want. However, sometimes there are stickier problems that need a more powerful approach. One of these is the simple linear regression. Don't let the terms fool you. In this approach, you must discover the regression equation for how the system responds and then use that formula to set the system at the desired level of performance. An even more advanced approach is to use a multiple regression analysis. This uses multiple factors to statistically predict the system performance. There are a number of considerations with this approach, including the residual analysis and confidence intervals. We'll touch on these topics more in our hypothesis testing course. When the problem is complex with multiple interacting factors, a design of experiments approach is used. This uses a set of experiments to statistically determine an optimal setting for product and process performance. There are several types of design of experiments, and we have dedicated an entire course to this topic. One technique is full factorial analysis, which determines the main effects and interaction effects of all factors being studied. There are many issues for consideration when creating this set of experiments to ensure the statistical analysis is valid. A variation of the factorial design of experiments is the fractional factorial design of experiments. This is actually the most commonly used approach because it saves a tremendous amount of time and money, but it also reduces the resolution of the analysis. Finally, the control phase. There are 3 topics for the control phase in the Black Belt body of knowledge. One is the lean controls, like 5S, Kanban, and Poka-yoke. The next is statistical process controls. Unlike hypothesis testing, where statistics were used to determine the root causes, this is an approach that uses statistics to determine whether the process is continuing to perform as designed and expected. It relies on the control chart. Different charts are used depending upon the characteristics of the data. We will introduce the topic of statistical control and control charting in this course, but if it is new to you, I strongly recommend that you take our standalone course on statistical process control. The final topic is Six Sigma control plans and response plans, along with the final cost-benefit analysis.
The Black Belt body of knowledge contains all of the widely recognized tools and techniques that are part of Lean Six Sigma. Now, not every project will use every tool, but to be a subject matter expert, you need to be familiar with all of them. Make sure you know these before you sit for the exam.